Marci Baker of Alicia's Attic, here to share with you the clear view of quilting. Today we're going to be doing 6-pointed stars from the book Oh My Stars. Many people think that the 6-pointed star is a difficult pattern to do. Let me show you how we're going to make it using 6 pieces per star, but we're not going to have the set-in seam. Here I have 3 tumbling blocks. Turns out stars and tumbling blocks are the same design, it's just where you place your value. We're using white for the background and red and blue for the star points. And each block has background and the 2 different star colors. Where the background fabric is in the block tells me what part of the star it's going to be. Here, the block is split at the top and the white is at the top. That's my background, so this will be the top of my star. Here, the white is in the lower left portion of the block, so that will be the lower left portion of the star. And finally, this one, the white is in the lower right, so it's the lower right part of the star. And that's how we're going to easily make 6-pointed stars. No set-in seams. We don't sew the star together just yet, but in order to do this project, let's pick some fabric, cut our strips, and I'll show you how to cut these shapes out. To pick your fabrics, we're going to select values for our stars that are close together. Here I have my blue, and then I'm going to use white as a background, so I'm just demonstrating this on white. And I have several reds that I'm going to consider. Here I have a red that I think I kind of like, and I'm considering it, but what I'm looking for in my star fabrics is that they are close in value, and I'm just placing 4 different values of red here that I'm considering. And I want it such that whenever the values for the stars are placed together, close together, they look like almost the same value. Even though they're red and blue, I want to have values that are close. And the way I look at that is I squint to see which ones tend to blend together or which ones stand out. And the best one from my perspective, now your screen may show something different, is that these 2 blend the most. As I squint, these 2 the line between them tends to fade away, whereas these are 2 reds that are lighter and this one's significantly darker. Any of these reds will work. However, the reds, the lighter reds and this darker red are going to make the illusion of tumbling blocks start to show up a little bit easier than these 2 that match very closely. Now that we've picked our fabrics, we're going to sew strip sets together, where we have a strip in the middle that's 1/2 inch wider than the outer strips. And for this particular star, we're going to have every possible combination. White in the middle with red and blue on either side, blue in the middle with red and white, and red in the middle with blue and white. Those are our 6 strip sets that we need to sew together in order to get 1 star. And I'm going to use Clearview Triangle, either an 8-inch or 10-inch works great for this first stars project. We're going to line up our rule lines along our seam and cut our first angle. For the left halves, which the diagram shows you, lefts and rights, we're going to have the point of the ruler up, and then we're going to take and turn this around and slice off. And we'll line up a rule line here, 2.5 is marked with my cutting edge, and we'll slice that off. That slice looks like this. And we'll cut that in half using our ruler again. We line up a rule line along the seam, slide it down until the edge of the ruler is at the end of this seam. I should be the air, and then I can cut that in half. That gives me 2 pieces, exactly the same, and this is the top of my star, the left half. And to get the right half, I would use the ruler again, but I'm going to start with a point down, and then I would turn it around and cut the slice in half, which the slice will look like this. And I'm going to get 2 pieces out of that look like this. So there's just the top of our star. And the instructions for cutting these are in the book. Okay, we've cut our pieces. Let's lay out a star. And if you recall, we're going to have the block where it's split at the top and the white is at the top. That's the top of the star. Then we take our block that's split again at the top, and it's in the lower left is where our background is. That's the left part of our star. And then the last block is the one with the white in the lower right hand corner. So that's our star. We can place another star right below it or one right above it. Here we'll start one that goes right above, so it's just the bottom of the first star. We can copy it. And you continue to lay out depending on which project you're working on. Just lay out your stars as you need them. And then we're going to fill in edges with diamonds and triangles depending on the design that we're doing. Then you're going to sew in strips. And these pieces will be picked up and sewn together into long rows, and the type of seam we're working with has ears. Let me show you a close-up of that. As you start to pick up your pieces and sew them together, you have to flip them down across the angle, and you're going to sew with ears sticking out on both sides. It turns out we need to sew from where this edge crosses this edge over to this edge crossing this edge, and when we do that at the right allowance, we'll get a straight seam whenever we open it up. And these will be in line with each other, and we'll have enough seam allowance past this point so that we get a nice crisp point on our star. Let me show you what happens when the ears aren't the right size. Here's one where I adjusted it so that there are no ears at all, and what happens when I open that up is that I have staggering. They're parallel, but they're staggering, and notice here where three fabrics come together, there's no room for a seam allowance. So I ended up cutting off or chopping off that point of the star, and we don't want to do that. So that was with no ears. Here is where I have too big of ears. I've adjusted them so that they're way too big compared to where I stitched, and when I open that up, they're staggered from each other the other way, and it turns out I have plenty of seam allowance here, but I don't have enough over here, and things are going to get chopped off. So we want to make sure that we have the ears the right size, and the way you adjust those, we'll go back to the ones I don't have sewn. The way you adjust them is you slide them back and forth across from each other until where this V hits your needle is right there in that V, and you come off at that V. If this isn't comfortable for you or you're not sure how to get that done, then you can use a tool called Q-Tool's Corner Cut, and what it allows for is that you can trim off the ear for your 60 degree to match your seam allowance. And we're going to line up the tool, both edges of it with both edges of the fabric, and trim off what's sticking out. And then when we've trimmed that off, and there's 2 points on each piece, then as I go to line these up and I flip this down, they line up exactly because I trimmed them off to match my seam allowance, and I'm going to be able to sew that, and they'll line up perfectly.